We devised to defraud the government out of tax on every gallon of gasoline. I brought the Russians in as partners. We operated that for about 7 or 8 years, made a tremendous amount of money. And people, look, I don't boast or brag about the money that we made. I went to jail because of it. It was part of the racketeering indictment. The government said defrauded the government out of over $2 billion. I think that's an exaggeration. It was a lot of money. It wasn't $2 billion. At least I don't think so. But it's not something that I can sit here and say I'm proud of. It's just the facts of part of my life, part of my business. So please understand that. And I'm not saying this to glorify that part of it. I know you like to hear stories. I've been asked this question, time and time and time again. So I'm going to answer it as best I could with a little story. Larry Irizzo was my partner. I think you know that. Larry was 6'5". He weighed about 500 pounds. He wasn't a sloppy, fat guy. He was a solid guy. And he was a brilliant guy. And he was the one that gave me the germ of an idea with respect to defrauding the government out of tax. We got together and ran that operation for about 7 or 8 years. Unfortunately, at some point in time, Larry got himself in trouble on an unrelated matter. It was a tax matter, but it was unrelated to what we were doing. And at that time, during his trial, he came to me and he said, "Hey, Chief, I'm not going to jail. Doesn't look good. I'm not going to jail." And I said to him, "Larry, look, the worst you're going to get here is 3 years. Tops, maximum. It's not a big deal charge, 3 years." I said, if you run, if you decide to be a fugitive, you're going to be a fugitive for the rest of your life. If they do catch you, you're going to get an additional 5 years on top of whatever you would have gotten here. They're going to retry you again. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, he didn't want to listen to that. Look, he was a big guy. He didn't see himself going to prison. We had a jet plane at that time. We had a lot of resources. We had a compound in Panama. We were actually dealing with Noriega, paying off some of his people for asylum there. At that time, there was no extradition between the United States and Panama. So Larry thought he would go to Panama and run our operation, or his part of the operation, from Panama, and the government wouldn't be able to extradite him.